Hello and welcome to Unientity. Today we're going to be doing a video about, ta-da, me. I'm going to be doing a video about Unientity and Unientity.com and how it all got started. The reason why is because a lot of my followers, many of you don't know this, but we have close to 4 million followers on Unientity.com. And they're all sending me messages. They're all upset. They're all angry that I make a lot of political videos and not Unientity videos. And so I have to appease everyone. And I have to kind of steer clear from the political videos for a while. And I have to give my followers what they want. This is why they haven't subscribed. A lot of them have, but a lot of them haven't. A lot of people don't know that I used to have a YouTube channel prior to this channel, and we were gearing towards 1 million followers. Now, we had thousands of videos, and YouTube took the channel down due to wording. And so a lot of the Unientity members were those followers. So now we started a new YouTube channel, and a lot of those followers don't want to come to YouTube. They're angry with YouTube. So what they do is they watch our videos on the website, Unientity.com. Now, I'm going to try to bring and lure some of those followers to YouTube. I really want to build this channel back. So I want to talk about how Unientity started. I had a near-death experience in my life, and I left my body. I was above my body. I was able to see and look at my body. And at that point, when I was looking down at my body, I was convinced I was dead. You know, you hear the stories, you know, you leave your body, you're dead. And I was 100% convinced that I died and that I left my body and I was dying. But the feeling was so good that I was welcoming it. I was accepting it. I never felt that good in my life. Now, as I left my body, I started floating towards a mountain. Where I was when I had that near-death experience, I was surrounded around mountains. And as I started getting to the top of the mountain, there was a bright light. As I got closer and closer to the light got brighter and brighter until I was blinded by the light. I couldn't see anything. It was just light. And then everything just came into focus. As everything came into focus, there standing in front of me was my guide. My guide, I have never seen this woman before in my entire life. I didn't know who she was. I was curious to know who she was, whether maybe she was a family member from long ago. I didn't know. I had an artist draw her. This is what she looked like. Now, as you can see, she was absolutely beautiful, the most beautiful person I have ever seen in my entire life. She started asking me a series of questions, telling me that I was on a journey, if I was happy in my life. And I knew within me I had no lying. I can't even explain it, but I couldn't have lied even if I wanted to. So I didn't have the ability to lie. So I immediately said, no, I am not happy with my life. And now she had told me I was on a journey, and she told me that I was not dead and that I was on a journey. Now, as we're talking, she hands me, I don't know what you want to call it, but to me it appeared like a stone. And she handed me a stone, and she had told me this stone is the image of God. And you're going to carry this with you on your journey to guide you. And whenever you have any question or doubt, you revert to the stone. And I held it with me. On her last question, everything disappeared. All of my surroundings disappeared. And all of a sudden, I was in a different time. Do you know what I felt like? I felt like I was on a movie set. A movie set from late 1800, early 1900s. I didn't know, but I knew that it was around that time because there were horse and carriages in the streets. You can tell by your surroundings around what era this was. And I knew right away that it was either late 1800s, early 1900s, New York City. Now remember, I am from New York City, so I know Manhattan. And I knew this was Manhattan, even though it was a different time. I started to look through my pockets to see if I had any hints or clues of where I was, because I was not in my body. I was in a different body. All I found in my pocket was money. And there was close to $70 in money in my pocket. But this money was different. I had Morgan silver dollars. I had bills that had different presidents on the faces. It just didn't look like my money. Now, I needed to know, one, where I was, two, what date I was in. There was a young boy selling newspapers. I called the boy over, told him how much was it for the newspaper, and the boy told me it was a penny. I told the boy, I took out one of the Morgan silver dollars I had in my pocket, and I told the boy, this Morgan silver dollar is yours if you can answer a few questions that I have. He looked as if he hit lotto. He was trembling, couldn't get his eye off of that silver dollar. He says, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Any question, sir? What date am I in? The boy said, sir, he didn't know what I was asking. What is today's date? The child gave me the date. I asked, what year is this? He said, sir, he was confused. He didn't know what I was asking. What year am I in? So he told me, sir, I says, is this 1890, 1891, 1892? What year is this? Oh, 1900, sir. June of 1900. I thanked him. I handed him the silver dollar. He took off and jetted. He ran with that silver dollar. One of his newspapers I took. The date was on the newspaper. I didn't even have to give him the dollar. I could have just given him the penny and seen everything I needed at the newspaper. So now I'm in awe. I'm looking around. I'm looking at the storefronts. I'm looking at there was a clock. I was looking at people, what they were wearing, even what I was wearing. I was wearing mind you, it was a very hot day, and I was wearing a cotton shirt that felt so uncomfortable. I'll never forget how that felt. I'm looking around, trying to see my surroundings, trying to see why I'm here. And out of nowhere, I hear a voice yell, Mateo, Mateo. And I turn around, and it is the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life prior to my guide that I just saw. I had immense love for this woman, and I didn't know why. She came running towards me. She grabbed my hand and started walking with me. Now, I had an artist draw her. Here's what she looked like. Her name was Harriet. Now, Harriet was my wife in the body I was in June of that summer. She was my fiancée, soon to be married wife. Now, I'm head over heels in love with this woman, and I don't know why. The body I was in, I'm assuming the Mateo was in love with her, and I was feeling the love he had for her. Now, I didn't want to lie to her. I wanted to tell her the truth, and I did. So I pulled her over. There were these stairs, okay? And I told her, can we sit down for a minute? And she said yes. Now, I looked her in the eye and I told her, I am not Mateo. My name is Giuseppe. And I told her everything. That, I just arrived. She started, at first she froze. She just stared at me for like a whole minute and didn't know what to say. And then she started crying, little tears running down her eyes. And then I got extremely emotional because I had so much love for this woman and I didn't want to see her crying. And I had told her, please don't cry. Please don't cry. So she turned around and told me, I would hope you're telling me the truth. And I told her I would never lie to you, ever. I have way too much love to lie to you. So she wiped her eyes, grabbed my hand, and told me, I love you no matter what. And she even called me by my name. She said, I love you no matter what, Giuseppe. I was like, what? It made me love her even more. So now we're walking and she's talking to me. She's saying, tell me about you. Tell me about where you come from. And I told her everything. I told her I come from a time that's very far into the future. And we have technologies that you could never imagine. And I told her about every technology that we had. And there is so much more to this story about me and Harriet, but I only have so much time in this video. Now, if you want to learn more, the whole story, you can go on Unientity.com and look at our blog section, and there's a section called My Experience, and you'll be able to read the entire experience on what happened that day and what happened on every other journey that I went on. Now, just before my journey was ending with Harriet, the eternal stone that I was given, I buried the stone in Central Park, Manhattan, underneath a tree that I knew to be a very big tree, but it wasn't so big when I was there. And I buried the stone at least 1.5 feet deep, right in front of the tree. Why did I do it? I have no idea. Everything in my soul was telling me to bury the stone. And so I did. When I returned from my journey and I returned back to my body, about 7 months later, I went back to the tree where I buried the stone in June of 1900. And all I kept thinking was in my mind, the weather and the earth must have destroyed what I buried. And I was more afraid that the stone wouldn't be there, because then everything that happened was just in my imagination. Maybe it didn't happen at all. If the stone isn't there, then it most likely did not happen. So I sat in front of that tree for 2 hours before I dug into the earth. When I dug into the earth, people thought I was absolutely insane. I was using this small little I don't know what you want to call them. They're like these little tiny mini shovels, and I was using that. And there was a couple on a picnic to my left, looking at me like, "What is he doing?" And I just started digging into the dirt. I didn't have to dig more than 5 inches, okay? And there was the stone. The stone was 5 inches deep. Now here's the thing. I video recorded everything. I video recorded me going to Central Park, grass covering the tree, me pulling the grass and digging beneath the grass and finding the stone. I have that stone to this day. It's called the Eternal Stone. We have close to 4 million Unientity members, all wanting to touch that stone. Now, I have the stone in a safety deposit box because I fear that someone's going to want to take the stone, because almost, I'd say 1,000 members a week ask to touch the stone. So I'm going to explain what happens when I touch the stone. Something happens. Something happens right away. Something magical happens. I've only allowed 2 other people to touch the stone, and both of them has had the same experience I had when I touched that stone. That can't be coincidental. So either 2 things is happening. Either I'm losing my mind and none of this ever happened, or 2, I'm full of crap and none of those things happen, or 3, I'm telling the truth and everything happened. I'm going to tell you, when I received this knowledge, I was given a choice. And let me try to use the analogy that I use with my Unientity members. I want you to imagine you had a time machine. Say you go into the future 30 days. You open the door to the time machine and it's 130 degrees. The sky is orange. There's UFOs everywhere. The buildings are all demolished. You can't breathe. You close the door and you go back to where you came from 30 days prior. You open the door, you take a huge breath of fresh air, and now you have to tell the world what you saw, right? So that you can probably try to prevent it, right? But do you leave out that you saw the UFOs so that you don't sound crazy or you don't sound like you made up the story? I came to that same point. Do I only say the things that sound realistic, or do I say everything that happened? And I made the choice that day that I was going to say everything that happened, regardless of how it makes me sound. So, to those of you who think one way about me, you have every right to. But for those of you who do believe what I'm saying, you can learn from the knowledge that I have. You can take that knowledge and use it to benefit your life. Now, when you read that story on my blog, the My Experience story, you'll notice the longest trip that I had during my journey was 6 months. And that was in the year 34, 31. And I explain in detail all of the technologies that existed in 3431. I explain all of the horrible things that has happened from now until 3431, in hopes that we can prevent some of those things. A few of those things that I mentioned are viruses. COVID-19 is not the last virus we're going to have. We are going to have 2 more major viruses that are going to be 10 times worse than COVID.